Marcus, Hannah, Abigail, Devante, Jeremiah, and Sierra. You may not be familiar with their names, but you may be very familiar with a controversial photograph of Devante. He was wearing a free hug sign, as he often did at rallies and festivals, and he hugged a Portland police sergeant during a protest after a grand jury declined to indict the officer responsible for the death of Ferguson, Missouri teen Michael Brown. The emotions on his face in a time of uprising and protest went viral, giving some folks hope for the future and leading others to criticize the image of a black young man hugging a man in uniform. Whatever your view of the photograph, it spoke volumes of the time and place it was taken. The attention it received was apparently unwanted by the boy's legal parents, Jennifer and Sarah Hart. Friends of the women wonder whether the attention drove Jennifer to a, quote, kind of insanity, end quote. Another would say that it put the family under a microscope that they felt no one should ever be under. And still others feel like the attention exposed a set of parents who were abusing their 6 adopted children as their curated image melted away under the spotlight. On the outside, Sarah and Jennifer presented as parents who were raising their children to be, quote, smart, unselfish, and passionate young adults, end quote, as one woman who knew them described to KOIN6. Indeed, in the first few years, 3 of the children made remarkable gains in the care of Jennifer and Sarah. Jennifer was a political activist and gamer. A friend of hers, Don Corey, described Jennifer as frustrated with the problems of the world. Sarah was the quieter of the couple, an enigma to many who met her, as they described. What friends of the family did not see was what those children were going through at home. All of the kids appeared thin and small, said neighbors. Dana DeKalb lived next door to the family for some time while they were in Washington State. She thought it was strange that they rarely saw or heard the kids. She said that despite the photographs of the kids playing in the snow, those images were all staged. In the summer of 2017, one of the girls, Hannah, jumped out of a second-story window covered in weeds. She barged into Dana's home looking for help. Unfortunately, when Jennifer and Sarah came looking for her, although Hannah begged Dana and her husband Bruce not to reveal her location, her husband would. Hannah told the DeKalbs that she was being hit with a belt and about other abuses. Jennifer and Sarah forced her to write an apology letter to Dana, claiming that she was just sad about 2 cats that died and frustrated with one of her brothers. About a week before the Harts left Washington, bound for California, Devante would come to Dana's house to ask for food, sometimes 3 times a day. It scared Dana, but she was trying to earn his trust to find out what was going on before calling CPS on March 23, 2018. Devante told her that his parents often punished them by withholding meals, often for days. He told her that Sarah did not go along with Jennifer's punishments at first, but finally relented. She would say that Devante described the punishments, in his own words, as abuse. He confirmed that all that Hannah had told them that night, that she ran to the house, was true. And there were signs of trouble long before Washington. In June of 2018, the Harts moved from Texas to Minnesota. Just 2 years after adopting the first 3 children, Marcus, Hannah, and Abigail, in 2018, CPS received reports that Jennifer struck one of the children in the arm. The state closed that case, suggesting that the child had fallen. The children were taken out of school for a year within months of that investigation. In 2010, several complaints were filed with Minnesota CPS. Sarah was arrested and sentenced to probation as a result. The accusations included physical abuse of the kids and withholding food from them. One of the girls, Abigail, had bruises on her sternum to her belly button, as well as on her back. She told CPS authorities that her mother had put her in a cold bath and then hit her with her fists. The young girl also reported that food was withheld from her. The child said her abuser was Jen. However, when speaking to police, Sarah took responsibility for spanking the girl. Jen denied having done it. All of it was done to Abigail over a penny the child had. That's right, just a penny. A little over a year later, all of the children would be removed from school again. In 2013, the family moved on to Oregon, and Oregon CPS opened an investigation into the family, but that too was closed. A friend of Jennifer had called CPS after she suspected she was both underfeeding the children and dragged one of the children, forcing 5 of the children to lay on an air mattress, arms by their sides with sleep masks on, for 5 hours. The friend told Oregon CPS that the kids were like trained robots, unlikely to say anything against Jennifer and Sarah. Sarah and Jennifer also denied the allegations and told workers the children sometimes acted out and had food issues. All of the children except Jeremiah were underweight and short for their ages. By 2017, the family moved from Oregon to Washington, where they moved in next to the DeKalbs. At some point, perhaps in an effort to minimize the children's direct contact with adults, the children were removed from school. It would be in California, eventually, that investigations were made into prior CPS contact on a global scale in an effort to understand what happened in this family. CHP officers were told the children were extremely disciplined, down to being told when they could go to the bathroom. Time and again, the children would indicate Jennifer was the abusive parent and Sarah would take responsibility, or a child would, as Hannah did with the DeKalb family. California authorities believed that this was a pattern that continued throughout Jennifer and Sarah's care of the children. 2 days after CPS in Washington were called, while traveling through Oregon on March the 25th and 26th of 2018, Sarah was conducting searches on her phone. How easily can I overdose on over-the-counter medications? Can 500 milligrams of Benadryl kill a 125-pound woman? How long does it take to die from hypothermia while drowning in a car? She tried to delete those searches, but they were recovered later. Their luggage was back at home in a house with bare children's rooms and a well-decorated adult bedroom. Their toothbrushes were also left behind. All evidence indicated that they neither planned to return nor planned to permanently relocate. Hence, no need for luggage and personal care items. Dana DeKalb would blame herself for what happened near the end of March, believing it was her legitimate call to CPS that set these matters into motion, when really it was a long history of abuse. Their vehicle ended up at the bottom of a 100-foot cliff just after 3 a.m. and landed on its roof. A nearby camper heard a revving car engine, tires over gravel, and cries for help in the middle of the night. Jennifer had alcohol in her system when she drove the vehicle over that cliff, it turned out. And Sarah had high levels of Benadryl. So did 3 of the children. It is also likely the kids were asleep, having been dosed with Benadryl, all 6 of them. The coroner's inquest, looking at all of the evidence and deliberating for just about an hour, determined that the car intentionally went over that cliff. It was throttled at 100% when it went over. No one attempted to brake. Jennifer and Sarah's death certificates would read suicide, while the death certificates for Marcus, who was 19, 16-year-old Hannah, Abigail, 14, Devontae, 15, Jeremiah, 14, and Sierra, just 12, would read homicide. When young Abigail's remains were found, she was covered in bruises that indicated past abuse, not solely from the trauma of the crash. Devontae's remains, unfortunately, have never been found. One of the recommendations from the Mendocino County Coroner's Inquest in 2019 was a national database of child abuse and neglect reports. The Harts moved time and again from state to state after involvement with state CPS authorities. In total, 5 states were involved in the adoption of the children and in the abuse allegations. All of this might have been prevented each time they arrived in a new state if CPS authorities were already aware. Maybe. And here's another question. Whether or not they would even have been able to work with the family. The children might have been placed into safer homes. The second set of adoptions might never have happened. There are just so many might have beens in this case. And these are important questions to have answered. They're beyond the scope of a true crime channel, really. There are so many important questions that should be taken up by lawmakers and social workers, those that consume the carefully curated social media personas that have hit the news lately for all the wrong reasons. Lost in all of this are the real, human, existing, grieving, natural families of the children. An important question that arises is why a paternal aunt, who by all accounts was taking great care of Marcus, Hannah, and Abigail, was not allowed to continue to care for the kids, and why the kids were allowed to even leave Texas, where they had connections, where they had natural family as well. There are important questions we need to confront in ourselves about why so many wrote this horrific murder off to immense pressures on the adults. These are family annihilators who are abusing their kids and running away, rather than confronting their issues, leaving so many questions when we can neither interview those adults, nor should we ever say that there is any excuse for taking the lives of 6 beautiful kids. Excusing them does nothing to protect children from people who would harm them. Nothing at all. Given the abuse young Devontae experienced in his short lifetime, a different, darker, much sadder pall is cast on those pictures of the young man crying while hugging people, including that police sergeant. It's one that points to the love that child deserved, the love that all of those children deserved, and just weren't truly getting. That's it for today. Until next Thursday, take care of yourselves. If you want to continue seeing videos like this and cases like this, hit the subscribe button, give me a follow. If you're on YouTube, turn on your notifications so that you know every time we post. Thanks, and we'll see you later.